Yes, welcome back to The Five. In an article for the New Republic, authors Matthew Paul and Steve Krause asked the question, why are the children of the greatest generation so selfish? The authors, both in their 60s, say members of the baby boom generation are only focused on self-interest, which in return is hurting this country. Here's what they say, quote, our generation taught the world that much good can come from organizing groups and for the greater good. Somewhere along the way, the greater good has been ignored. While organizing for self-interest continues to have great success, the information age has made it much easier to organize, influence, and empower narrow self-interest groups. Let me tell you something, boys, who wrote that. I don't know how you're getting your paycheck, but you shouldn't be drawing it. Look, the fact of the matter is, baby boomers have been maligned over and over again. They come from the, quote, the greatest generation. I want to say what I think about the greatest generation. It has become a vastly overstated generation. Baby boomers have contributed more time in volunteer work than any other generation in history. They've given more money than any other generation in history. Yes, they may seem to be a little self-absorbed on certain things, but we're not talking about the New York, Washington, D.C. axis here. For the most part, there are 79 million baby boomers, and they're pretty good. They've done a good job, and they've taken technology a long way. And I might add, on the greatest generation, I give them all the credit in the world for fighting the Second World War. But let's remember, only 10% of them fought in that war. And the fact of the matter is that the baby boomers have contributed an awful lot to this country.
You're a baby boomer, aren't you, Bob?
I know.
Of course I'm a baby boomer, but I don't like a bunch of, do not like this greatest generation thing being thrown in our face all the time. Tom Brokaw, and it is not, I take nothing away from people who went through the Depression and fought the Second World War. They're great. But I'll tell you one thing. They came back to a country that had a strong economy, had jobs that were there. You could stay at a job for life. They didn't have it nearly as tough as baby boomers did.
Here's the problem that I have with the article is they talked about people being too self-centered, but they chose the wrong examples. They said that these people didn't like to pay enough taxes. They were selfish because they didn't pay enough taxes. I would say baby boomers are selfish because of the self-esteem movement of the 70s that told you that you had to look inward rather than outward. The greatest generation, whoever, but prior to that, they wanted to learn more about the world and about God, whereas in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, it was more about getting to know yourself and your feelings, and I think that's where the selfishness comes from. However, in this article, they don't address that. Instead, they say that these people don't know sacrifice, meaning they don't pay enough taxes.
What do you mean? What do you mean the greatest generation was looking for the world and God?
No, what I'm saying is they were not involved in finding out their inner self. They didn't need to know who they were.
Well, if they're talking about organizing,
that's a modern movement.
I'm very happy to say that it was boomers who led the way in organizing against an outrageous war in Vietnam and an outrageous racism throughout this country.
How can you explain their fashion, Bob? How can you explain their terrible fashion?
I had nothing wrong with the fashion. I liked it. I still have a lot of my tie-dye stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Go ahead, Eric. You want to discuss this, or Dana? Go ahead.
Well, I think of all the people you've had to apologize, that you might get the most email about maligning the greatest generation.
I'm not maligning them. I'm saying that I think it's a little overrated in terms of the baby boomers, saying that they were great and the baby boomers aren't. I just don't buy that.
Here's one thing that I wonder about. One of the debates we're having right now, and that the super committee is going to have to deal with, is reforming entitlement spending.
Right.
And Mike McCurry, who was the press secretary under Bill Clinton, one of the best press secretaries ever, we do some things together. One of the things he talks about is how he remembers in the Carter campaign, or Carter administration, they talked about reforming Social Security, and that we're still having some of the similar debates that we've had over 30 years. It's one of the things that I just thought was an interesting criticism of why haven't we been able to solve some of these problems. And now some of the batons are being passed. You have younger people being elected, and I think that's where some of that frustration is coming from.
And you know what's going to happen is you have the greatest generation, then you have the boomers, and then you have the X generation, or the next generation.
The millennials.
Well, you want to talk about an entitlement class. They all think that they're entitled to everything.
I totally agree.
The government should provide them a job. They should provide them a house, in some cases a car.
It's like a dependency nation.
Yeah.
You have a problem with
I will say this, there's an exception to that, and that is anybody who is in the military. When you run into a young kid, no matter what generation, when they're in the military, they are immune to this kind of behavior. Yeah, they are so not self-absorbed, and they don't ask for
So are you saying to bring back the draft?
I kind of am. But I'm saying that because I'm 47.
You're 47. Happy birthday, by the way.
How convenient.
But listen, you know something? Have you known one generation that hasn't always said about the next generation, they're lazy, they don't do this, they don't do that? I mean, this is nothing new, and I want to reiterate again, I am not dumping on the whatever you want to call it, the greatest generation. I'm saying that it ought not be used as a reason that we are not a good generation, because we are. That's right. So there you go. Send in all the mail you want. I get it anyway. Stay with the 5 because there is something sweet coming up that you don't want to miss.